Doesn't mean that Hillary would have been a good choice either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office. They were trying to get people to be supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. Women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician, completely full of shit. She's been full of shit forever.
The key point here, which again the mainstream media won't pay attention to, which is Russia actually claimed to have had very negative and derogatory information about Hillary Clinton. That if they had chosen to release that in the weeks leading up to that November 2016 election, it would have very likely had a devastating effect on her campaign.
Totally. I mean, that she was addicted to tranquilizers.
When Joe Rogan and Tulsi Gabbard come together, the noise fades and the truth hits hard like a wrecking ball. Side by side, they break down the polished image of political elites, stripping away the myths one tough fact at a time. No filter, no pauses, just a relentless push that leaves even the best spin masters scrambling. And right at the center of it all is Hillary Clinton, facing a duo that isn't here to debate. They're here to dismantle everything.
Guilty of massive amounts of misinformation and disinformation as a part of a propaganda campaign.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed federal prosecutors to launch a grand jury investigation into members of the Obama administration over the 2016 Russia investigation.
A lot of them are guilty of it. Yeah. A lot of the people that are in that White House press conference, a lot of the organizations they work for, distributed absolute lies.
Total lies.
Tulsi Gabbard declassified documents that she says shows Obama administration officials manufactured intelligence to make it look like Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
How many of them during the whole Russiagate thing?
A lot of people think that the Russia thing was real.
Yeah, still.
I mean, the whole Steele dossier where it was like completely concocted.
Funded by the Clinton campaign.
Correct. This is how these people think. They don't actually care about the Constitution or free speech or the First Amendment, but ultimately they are more worried about we, the American people, criticizing them when they are failing to fulfill their fundamental and core responsibility to care for the American people in their greatest time of need than they actually do about caring for people in their greatest time of need.
Hillary Clinton's political career has always been a story of persistence, but not the inspiring kind. It's more like someone staying at the party long after everyone's gone. The music stopped and the lights are back on. Tonight, Joe Rogan and Tulsi Gabbard take that persistence, shake it out like an old rug, and show just how much political dust has built up over time.
The conversation between James Comey.
110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information.
When James Comey testified about what he did and what they found with the Hillary Clinton emails, and then her version of it.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material.
She's just a straight liar. She deleted 33,000 emails.
I provided all my emails that could possibly be work-related.
Several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton.
When they rigged the DNC, they rigged the primaries so that Bernie Sanders was going to lose.
I thought using one device would be simpler.
She also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email.
She had her people into the DNC way in advance. That Donna Brazil book about it is...
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the bell icon. Joe Rogan goes right to the heart of the Hillary story, the image she built as an unstoppable, can't-lose political force. She was supposed to make history in the White House, but instead ended up writing books trying to explain how she lost to a man tweeting in all caps about hamburgers. Rogan doesn't hold back, pointing out that Clinton had every advantage. Money, media, the Democratic Party, Hollywood support, and a campaign budget big enough to run a small country. Yet she still tripped over her own ambition like it was a loose carpet.
I'm sure the Clintons were there at some point.
Maybe Bill.
Bill is so nice.
I went one time. Was he?
He's so nice. Like when I met him.
So charming.
He is, and he's actually still kind of good looking. Like even for an older dude. Yeah, why not? He's still so good looking, and she's just so miserable.
Well, she was publicly humiliated, and she thought that her big retribution.
Gabbard doesn't hold back either. She's not just talking about Hillary's political losses, she's digging up the skeletons. Clinton has carried for decades the endless scandals, the foreign policy missteps, the hunger for power, and the willingness to burn through alliances just to stay in the game. Tulsi makes it clear that Hillary's career isn't just about missed opportunities. It's a lesson in how to push away voters, allies, and even your own party until the only people still clapping are the consultants cashing your checks.
2017 assessment is that Russia had decided to wait until Hillary Clinton won the election and wait until maybe days or weeks before her inauguration to release these documents once again to sow chaos and discord in America and to undermine her presidency before she would even have the opportunity to take the oath.
He digs even deeper, cutting through Hillary's fighter for the people image like a surgeon tired of working the same case. He goes after her speeches, so stiff they could pass for IKEA furniture, and points out how they always sound like they've been through 17 focus groups before anyone hears them. Every word is planned, and every move is practiced, yet they still land with the excitement of a Windows 95 screensaver.
Day of the election, I think they had some crazy odds of Hillary winning. It was like in the 90%. We watched it from the Comedy Store. We did a podcast from the Comedy Store called the End of the World podcast. What was most fascinating was the podcast was over, and then we all went to the bar, and on the television, Jake Tapper was just seriously bummed out, talking about Trump winning all these different states.
And Anderson, it is hard to think of a political comeback that is actually more significant than this one. I'm tempted to say Richard Nixon, but that really falls short of what Donald Trump has achieved.
I think for a lot of people, that was the end of trust in mainstream media. That was the first nail in the coffin. Those to be like, you were so wrong.
Tulsi, meanwhile, goes straight after the foreign policy failures. Clinton either supported or stayed quiet on the Iraq war vote, the Libya intervention, and the constant push toward military action in places most Americans couldn't even find on a map. Tulsi paints Clinton as the ultimate establishment hawk, the kind of leader who can talk about peace and diplomacy while quietly sharpening the next round of sanctions like a set of steak knives. The roast isn't just about policies, it's about personality too. And Rogan knows exactly where to hit. He points out Hillary's struggle to connect with people without sounding like she's pitching a loyalty program. Instead of owning her mistakes or admitting she ran a flawed campaign that pushed voters away in key states, Hillary leaned into the idea that she was the target of a global conspiracy. Tulsi doesn't buy it, making it clear that Clinton's habit of shifting blame has become one of the most overused moves in modern politics.
Point here, which again the mainstream media won't pay attention to, which is Russia actually claimed to have had very negative and derogatory information about Hillary Clinton. That if they had chosen to release that in the weeks leading up to that November 2016 election, it would have very likely had a devastating effect on her campaign.
Totally. I mean, that she was addicted to tranquilizers.
Yes.
And then you now look at...
Rogan points out the irony that even now, with Donald Trump in the White House as president, Hillary still finds a way to step into political debates as if she's the rightful heir to the seat. She's like a movie sequel nobody asked for, but the studio keeps producing because it hopes nostalgia will somehow pay off. It never does. Instead, the public gets another press tour, another set of perfectly polished talking points, and another wave of eye rolls from people who remember how the last chapter ended. Tulsi drives home the idea that Hillary's political instincts are less master strategist and more GPS with a bad signal. The 2016 campaign wasn't her first stumble, just the most visible one. This is where Rogan and Gabbard find their rhythm, showing that Hillary's obsession with image has always been her weakness. Every attempt at reinvention feels like another costume change in the same worn-out play, from First Lady to Senator to Secretary of State to presidential candidate.
How desperate they were to keep Trump out.
Here's the important thing to me. What I learned is that the Russians were successful.
Which is wild.
They would do anything.
I don't think there's any way to read that report and not conclude they accomplished what they set out to do.
They just felt like this is a tool that we have, and let's use it. Let's just say whatever the fuck we have, say anything.
And to help Donald Trump, and they succeeded.
They repeated that lie, completely lost respect for Obama.
It's not about proving someone wrong. It's about pushing them out of the conversation entirely. That's the sign of a politician who fears competition more than they value open debate. The roast continues as Rogan takes aim at Clinton's constant media presence. Even without holding office, she still hovers over politics like a drone that can't be brought down. Every new scandal, every shakeup in the party, there's Hillary offering her take as if she's a moral authority no one remembers voting for. Rogan compares it to a sports commentator who never won a championship, yet insists on telling the current players how they're doing everything wrong. Young voters didn't buy it then, and they're even less interested now.
Just the other day, we heard Hillary Clinton say that on Rachel Maddow's show that those who are spreading disinformation should be charged with either civil or criminal charges to act as a deterrent for people exercising their right to free speech. She said if social media doesn't start cracking down on free speech online, then they will be unable to.
The Clinton Foundation, an endlessly debated charity that always seemed about as transparent as a brick wall. Rogan doesn't even need to directly suggest wrongdoing. The optics alone were enough to make people question whether philanthropy was quietly doubling his influence. And in politics, perception is everything. Tulsi's closing focus lands on the sense of entitlement Clinton projects, the belief that the presidency was hers by default and that losing was an injustice rather than a verdict. It's a refusal to read the room, to recognize that the country moved on while she was still planning her next campaign book tour. By the time Rogan and Gabbard wrap up, the message is clear. Hillary Clinton isn't the future of the Democratic Party. She's the echo of elections past. And if qualified means losing to someone the media insisted couldn't win, and maybe that kind of qualification belongs in the Hall of Fame for political irony.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see both sides, though. I see the side that if you're an anti-Trump person and you find out that he's doing something that's against the law, you'd want to prosecute it for it.
Yeah.
I see both sides.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't know the specifics of the Hillary Clinton email thing in terms of like what those files were, but if they're the same classification of files as like he had, you could make the argument they were more vulnerable because they were on a regular laptop.
Well, and it's still destroyed after a subpoena.
Right.
A subpoena. I mean, imagine if Trump was subpoenaed for this information, instead of handing it over, he burned it.
Right. That is where shit gets really...
Try to remember this. For someone with decades of political experience, her campaign often felt like it was being run by interns on a lunch break. It became a lesson in overconfidence, like showing up to a chess match assuming the other player doesn't even know the rules, only to lose in 7 moves. Tulsi Gabbard's critique hits even harder because it carries the sting of someone who was once inside the system. She had seen Hillary work the political machine up close and understood the tactics, the backroom deals, the planned leaks, the quiet attacks. Tulsi didn't just point out flaws, she stripped away the image of a polished stateswoman undone by fate and replaced it with the story of a political heavyweight constantly tripping over her own momentum on the way to the White House. What made it even more striking was Hillary's tendency to frame her loss as a rare accident, as if the stars simply turned against her. Rogan mocks that mindset, comparing it to blaming the weather after crashing a car while texting. Sure, conditions might not have been perfect, but maybe the real issue was the driver. From Libya to Syria, Clinton's approach looked less like careful diplomacy and more like playing risk with real nations. Tulsi makes it plain. This wasn't the steady, calculated leadership the media sold. It was recklessness wrapped in a power suit. And then there's the Clinton brand itself, a decades-old mix of entitlement and nostalgia.
The Hillary Clinton email scandals was one of the reasons why Donald Trump got elected.
And the thing that you should be apologizing for are the 33,000 emails that you deleted and that you acid washed. There has never been so many lies, so much deception. There has never been anything like it. You get a subpoena, and after getting the subpoena, you delete 33,000 emails. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow.
Joe Rogan pointed out that Hillary ran for president like it was simply her turn, as if the country owed her the job just for being around long enough. That mindset might work for a small-town bake sale committee, but not for a nation already skeptical of lifelong politicians. Rogan's critique hits harder because it resonates. She didn't look like she was running for the people so much as for a prize she believed had already been promised to her. Tulsi Gabbard reinforces that idea by highlighting the gap between Clinton and everyday voters. While many Americans were dealing with medical bills and unstable jobs, Hillary's campaign often seemed more focused on celebrity endorsements and staged photo ops. It felt like politics turned into performance, and the audience wasn't buying tickets. The result was a major collapse that even the strongest spin couldn't dress up as a moral victory. What made the combination so effective was the contrast. Rogan delivered the blunt, raw breakdown, while Tulsi added the precise insider perspective. Together, they stripped away the polished myth and left behind a far more uncomfortable picture of Hillary Clinton.